All right, welcome to the Bounty Hunters every Wednesday here on Twitch. 7:30 is supposed to be, today's 8. We'll ignore that.
Technical difficulties.
Watching this on YouTube, that seems to be 90% of the people who watch this on YouTube. Welcome in. But you can't watch us do this live on Twitch, or just wait for me to download it on the YouTube. And who are we discussing tonight?
We are looking at the Pyke Syndicate.
We're going to give you a chance to eat your candy. Let's start it. All right. So we're kind of doing a little bit of the underworld of Star Wars. Yeah. Last week, we covered the Shadow clans, underground worlds.
Yeah. And covered the Black Sun.
The Black Sun.
And now we're on to the Pyke Syndicate, the other big name.
And yeah, so to the Pyke Syndicate, let me display the video. Here we go. The Pyke Syndicate, a notorious criminal organization specialized in trafficking spice for the Spice Cartel. Their operations were based on their homeworld of Oba Diah, and they held a near monopoly of production of raw spice for the entire galaxy. To ensure the smooth flow of spice, they oversaw the transportation from Kessel to Coruscant, relying on smugglers and freighter captains to undertake the dangerous Kessel runs. As the Clone Wars raged on, they established connections with the crime families of Coruscant. Additionally, the Pyke Syndicate was involved in coaxium extraction from Kessel, making them a multifaceted force in the criminal underworld. The Pykes faced challenges in their association with Darth Maul's Shadow Collective. Eventually, they chose to withdraw from the collective, deeming it less profitable than originally thought. After the collapse of the Galactic Republic, Maul emerged as a secretive leader of the Crimson Dawn, one of the 5 most influential criminal organizations. The Pyke found themselves in a precarious alliance with the Crimson Dawn, navigating a delicate and uncertain partnership. All right, there it is, the Pyke. Thank you, Kellen. I didn't even know I was affiliate anniversary. There you go.
You missed your anniversary. How could you?
All right. So I did learn a few interesting things. Basically, the Pyke, for just dropping down layman's terms, they're the drug dealers. They control the spice. Spice can be good. Spice can be good. It can be bad. It can be good. You can use it for medicinal purposes.
Like most other drugs, there's medicinal, there's pharmaceutical purposes, but there's also some more devious fun.
More devious, and also, even more so. It can be like a little bit of a fun party, or it could be, you don't know who you are. Yeah. Their brand, known as like Kessel type brand, is kind of took over as the cream of the crop. And I learned that just don't steal my signature blue spice. So I kind of learned that because of the clouds, the space anomaly around them, they were kind of able to control that area without really anybody even knowing they were there or kind of bothering them. So they were not gobbled up by some of the big ones. So when they did make their grand entrance onto the stage, they kind of came already powerful and able to defend themselves. So that's kind of nice, I guess. If you want to control a criminal underworld of drugs, you can come in with a powerful organization already.
I didn't research super deep into this one thing, but I couldn't find the answer. Was obviously Kessel is mentioned as early as New Hope, like Han Solo saying it, but I don't know when it was ever mentioned that the Pykes controlled Kessel. I don't know if that was mentioned somewhere in the Clone Wars at the first time, or if it was mentioned somewhere, like slipped somewhere into a visual dictionary, possibly.
Oh, yeah. The official term, I'm not sure. I know that every time I saw it kind of mentioned, it was always, and a few of the comic books were mentioned. It seemed like a lot.
Because the Clone Wars is the first time we really see the Pykes, or the first time we see the Pykes, and they're introduced to them. So there might have been mentions of them ruling like a criminal syndicate, and while having them directly mentioned before then.
And I guess officially they're trying to make it out to be like the shenanigans that went down in that mine really hurt the organization to the point where they were kind of like never respected and got that power back again. So I find that a little bit interesting that in that movie, this little droid takeover,
droid rebellion.
You can't even get your droid under control. You're not going to with it. And then that one part that I think a lot of people who aren't super duper nerds and consume all things Star Wars don't realize is that, that guy who was really cool, who's red, who has a bunch of horns on his head. He's not actually. Not only is he not dead, but he took over the entire criminal underworld at one point.
Yeah, how it's actually kind of funny how fan fiction he is. He just suddenly, I return and I just killed these guys and disappeared, and I took over the syndicates.
It really does remind me of, like, if you're playing toys or, like you said, fan fiction, and he's your favorite. It's like, not only did I not die, but I come back and I control it all. Like, it's actually pretty funny what they did with him.
Yeah.
And then later on, he's like an old man who, even though he controlled all the crime syndicates, he's like Kenobi on the desert planet, just withering away.
God, that's funny.
Maul has an interesting thing that goes wrong with that.
One thing I wanted to bring up with the Pikes, because obviously the Pikes, it's really funny. The Pikes are fish people, essentially, like a pike fish is what they're based off of. But when you first see them in the Clone Wars, their design's very distinctive. How their headpieces, everything, they look really very distinct. And then, like when we saw, like when Cad Bane was transitioned to live action, there's elements to a species where you know they change it to be a little more forgiving for live action, like how things work. But the Pikes, like, wasn't even like an aesthetic change to make it more realistic. They completely, when you first saw them in Solo, they were in these. People thought they were robots at first because of how they had their masks and their small heads. And then when we saw them again in Book of Boba Fett, we saw them without the mask, and it was like, they look almost completely different how their species looks. And then they still have those like helmets they got going on, but you never see those helmets again. And anytime they brought up in comics or other media like Bad Batch, they revert back to that Clone Wars style, which looks entirely different.
Yeah, it's weird because I actually like the helmets. I actually think that looks really cool.
I do, yeah.
And then you have them in Solo, where the video I just showed, where there's like literally like
Tubing.
The condensation almost, it seems like, is dripping from it, from whatever they need that mask for. And then fast forward to that great show known as The Book of Boba that we cannot be disappointed. And they just apparently just don't need them. Like, they're just like, just walk around, chill out without the mask on. It's always weird.
They're just for good looks,
I guess so. They're just tradition. It's kind of like whenever people ask, sometimes I've had somebody ask me, I think when I was playing the Jedi Survivor game or whatever, and they're like, basically, what is the armor on a stormtrooper for? And it's a good question. They don't really seem to stop bolts. They don't really seem to stop staff or rocks or sticks. They seem to be gas. They can be smoked. They can be a lot of stuff. I'm not really sure what they're for other than intimidation, I guess.
Intimidation and the cool factor.
So you have the Pikes. They were able to control their little part, and it seems like, from what I was reading, that the other major crime organization that I guess we're probably going to be talking about next, the Hutts, we're just happy to say, listen, you stay over there, I stay over here. We work together when we can. We don't step on each other's toes too much, and we can just all get along. We can agree to get along, and then that's it. There's not a lot about the Pikes, obviously, because they're a shadowy, secretive kind of place. So
yeah. The only interesting thing is like talking about we don't know for certain who their leaders really were. If they have like a supreme leader, like how Zizor was for the Black Sun, or like the Jabba was like the top of the Council of Hutts, like he was most respected. For the Pikes, the first one we meet, who's like the leader, his name is actually Lom Pyke, which is funny that his last name is the same as the organization. So you figure he's probably like a family member, the family. And he dies, and then in the Clone Wars, and then we're introduced to another one near the end of the Clone Wars and Bad Batch. Marge Tag or whatever. They basically take over. And they're the one that goes off into hiding after Maul tells them to. And we don't know what happens to them. And then after that, we don't really meet any other, like, there's small underlings. And like, this killed me just to hammer more into Book of Boba Fett for fun. They have all these names. Star Wars is known for naming the most random character in the corner of a screen and giving them a backstory. The Pyke that is in their show, who is the main antagonist, who's the one that's that's trying to take over Tatooine and all this other stuff. He doesn't have a name. His name is Pyke Boss. Just Pyke Boss. That's his name in the visual. That's his name in the visual stuff. That's his name in the credits. Pyke Boss. He didn't even give him a name.
And even the Pyke name, honestly, that's just good old fashioned Star Wars there, where you're like, we have these guys look like fish, call them Pikes, because why not? It makes them more mysterious. It's like my kids like what is it called? Boss Baby or Baby Boss or whatever that's called.
Well, I was thinking Cake Boss every time I kept saying to myself.
Oh yeah, Cake Boss is also a good one. Yeah, the only thing I would say was they got involved early on with Maul's plan to take over the underworld. By the way, what's up, cutie kid? We're doing StreamYard, so I can't really shout you guys out. I keep saying I'm going to figure out how to do it on OBS, but that's got to take effort.
After another 30 episodes, we'll figure that out.
So they got on early with Maul, and then they kind of realized that Maul was here for a personal vendetta and not money making. So then they kind of backed out and said, never mind. And then Maul hunkered back down and said, no, we're taking this thing over again. So they're like, yeah, we'll come back in. And then Maul literally made a point to say, like, you can come back in, but I can repace you in like 2 seconds. You just slang them rocks. Like, I get anybody to sling a rock. I don't need you for that. So their position got really downgraded pretty fast when they came back there. They're literally there as
drug runners
of drugs. And it's funny because although they did, I guess one of the last things before we see their like 5 instances in the comics probably. They did develop space travel separately from other people because, like I said, they were in their little nebula cloud looking thing. But they still rely almost completely on others, like Han Solo, for example, to do their smuggling. They don't really do their own smuggling. They rely on others, which is actually smart in the grand scheme of things.
They're just the proprietors. They're not the.
Hey, listen. I sell pharmaceuticals. They can be used for good or bad. I have no idea what my clients are doing. I put them on a ship. They leave. What can I do?
I mean, it's not my fault. This guy decided to take. He was supposed to go to there, but he went to over the border and snuck in.
All right. You have anything left on the Pikes?
Other than going to their couple comic appearances, yeah, it's again one of those organizations that's they had a big moment during the Clone Wars era. That's when they had their stride. They kind of faltered later on, and then once Maul kind of abandoned them to do his thing, they bounced back up. And then obviously, as time goes on, they lose control.
It's the part that I like about Daddy Lucas having Star Wars, and the part that concerns me about Disney having them. Because you were always on that verge of Daddy Lucas. Dark Horse helped out a lot back in the day because Dark Horse seemed like they didn't care about getting weird and grimy. They didn't really care about it.
Big Snake Man Long as
Snake Man Long is a good example. But it was like there is obviously in this world going to be an underworld. There's going to be people smuggling. There's going to be drugs. Humans are humans. There's going to be all those things, and it was nice that they were getting to the point where it was actually kind of grimy. And with Disney, I don't know if we're ever going to expand on that and talk about the underworld a little bit more. I think it'll be a little bit more Disney-fied. So it'll be there, but not to the point where Daddy Lucas is ready to go. So Spice is legal at any part of the Empire.
Yeah. So Spice basically was Star Wars took the term Spice from Dune. And they basically essentially just took it as an idea of all.
Star Wars took ideas from other places.
Star Wars took ideas from other sci-fi franchises back before then. Who would believe it? So Spice, is basically a catch-all term for just drugs, or before they're fully, what's that word? Just altered, I guess, in the different forms. Anyways, Spice was legal, but it had to be transported specifically, would be the Empire would be transporting, or etc. If it was someone who was not supposed to be having spice on them, Empire or Republic registered personnel, then they would be charged with smuggling spice.
Yeah, spice was it'd be like we call drugs, right? Like drugs can be like
Advil and Tylenol, or it could be heroin and cocaine. It could be anything.
Drugs also like what the Canadian takes whenever he's not like live on Twitch. It's just a catch-all name kind of with the spice thing, because it can be a pharmaceutical thing, which I think is weird though, because we have Bacta in this world. So that's got to be really
Bacta's morphine 100%. You know that.
It's got to be a really loose terminology. Like, no, it's totally good. I meant for this for people's headaches and stuff. And then I saw another one. The guys, what are they called? With the eyeballs stick out? The ones that used to control everything.
Oh, the
Come on, Star Wars nerd. We should know this.
The Rakatans.
Yeah, they're these guys that have the eyeballs on the end of their stalks. We'll call it. Well, anyway, they controlled everything before what we know the modern world.
Empire.
And I did see a theory out there that the reason why Spice works on everyone and the reason why all this works and why they're so humanoid is that they basically either made a bunch of species or bred us like a champion Doberman pinscher to be like what they needed for their slave empire, basically. And that's why a lot of the, stuff can be moved back and forth, because there should be like a slime character that can never have a child with a human, yet we can all seem to have, babies with each other. So that's another reason why Spice universally can work on all species, even if it works differently on some. All right. Are you ready to jump into the comic book world?
Yes.
Let's do it.
So, there's an example of the Pyke helmets and that look. Obviously, they don't have to have these ginormous bodies and or heads and small bodies on scene. Save them the trouble.
Cool, but like, I don't know. There originally was supposed to be a reason why they needed those, and they kind of just,
Don't even bring up the fact that during the Book of Boba Fett, you see people getting shot, the blasters, and them falling over, and the masks or helmets fall off. You just see their human faces underneath.
You weren't supposed to see that. That was a Disney mess up.
So, movie and TV appearances, they do actually have quite a lot. So, Solo is the first appearance of Quay Tulsite, which is that guy we saw them interact with, the one that walked up during the clip. And the 2008 Clone Wars, Eminiscence, which is season 5, episode 14, is the first appearance of the Pyke Syndicate, as well as Lom Pyke ruling it at the time. And then later on in the Lost Ones in season 6, we get the death of Lom Pyke. And then following that, when season 7 of the Clone Wars came out under Disney Plus, we had the first appearance of Marge Krim, which had been the new leader at the time that we knew of for the Pyke Syndicate. Again, we saw them Bad Batch, and then Book of Boba Fett, we got them back again where they first showed up in episode 2. Episode 3 is the first appearance of Pyke Boss, and chapter 7 is the death of Pyke Boss.
Kid's new favorite character, Pyke Boss.
So stupid.
No, it's intimidating. She done told you that.
Sure, never mind. So yeah, comic appearance more theory. Still funny. So comic appearances actually have quite a lot, which is surprising to me. A lot of it's because all the syndicate stuff happens later on with the with the War of the Bounty Hunters. But basically, all of it's canon. Their first appearances. Technically, the Darth Maul son of Dathomir was from Dark Horse before, but it was carried over because of it. So the first
son of Dathomir. It looks like it'd be an interesting read. I should probably buy all those. I bet it'd be fun to own.
Yeah, I just ignore the price of the first one. So issue 2 is the first appearance of the Pykes, as well as the first appearance of Lom Pyke. Actually comes in Darth Maul number 2. When they did the 2017. So it's pretty funny that both number 2s featured the Pykes in different ways.
Nice.
Really interesting. Given the importance of the Pykes in Solo and all that, they only show up in issue 4 of the adaptation. That's the first appearance of Quay Tulsite. And they show up for like 1 or 2 panels, if I'm not mistaken, which is really weird. And no cover appearances across that entire adaptation, the variants or anything.
So to go back to Lom Pyke, right? So the fact that we've had bosses since then, other than Boss Pyke, a few. So Pyke isn't. It doesn't seem to be across the board consistent. So Pyke isn't a name you get when you're boss.
Yeah, it's not like a name that's given to you, or not like one of those where like the last name is always the same across the whole species and the first name is different. There is different people, Lon Pike, Quay Tulsite, and as we see, we don't have Marge does not have a appearance in comics at all. Just those two specifically have appearances. But actually, going forward from that, there's a couple appearances across some of the Bounty Hunter comics and War of the Bounty Hunters. The other two that have our note is issue 4 of Crimson Reign has a variant. It's a syndicate variant, and that features the first cover appearance of the Pyke Syndicate. And then Hidden Empire 1, we talked about before. There's a scene where all of them are in holograms, all the leaders of the syndicates. And the Pyke leader is there, unnamed, does not speak, and it doesn't look like either of any of the other bigger names we've seen before. So an unnamed big leader,
maybe Big Boss Pyke,
the big Pyke,
yeah, Big Pyke,
Pyke King. So there is issue 2 of Son of Dathomir.
Is that an over shoulder situation we got?
That is an official over the shoulder
right there, ladies and gentlemen.
For the more recent viewers who haven't had these a long time ago, we had a lot of the bounty hunter characters, and a lot of the first appearances we covered were over a shoulder always. So
if you haven't been watching Son of Dathomir, at least cover wise, are freaking ridiculous. If you can tell by this one, like they are so good.
Yeah.
That's hence why some of them are very expensive.
And then another issue 2 of Darth Maul. So this is the 2017. This is his solo series before episode 1. He goes to an auction here for a Jedi, and you see the Pikes front and center. That is Lon Pike in the front there.
Can we just talk about, which I didn't notice this the first time?
You can see the hut.
Is that Godzilla hut? Like what hut is that supposed to be? Why is he?
I can't remember. I think they mentioned his name. That's that's the muscular hut, if I'm not mistaken.
That's Godzilla hut. He's Big Hut. He's Boss Hut.
Big Hut. And this is just a fun part. Some action here of Darth Maul mucking up some Pikes.
Yeah,
as you go later on to rule them, you gotta show us who's boss first.
So basically, somebody wins the Jedi sweepstakes. Maul says, "Nope, I'm taking that Jedi." They send these Pikes in, and shockingly, none of them make it back home. They fall.
No,
they fall to Maul.
Spoiler. So yeah, this is issue 4 of Solo. Funny enough, no cover appearances in the series for them. There is Quay Tulsite in the middle there on the right. Funny enough, they speak in the gibberish language, which is weird for this. He basically appears in those 2 panels, and I think that's it. If I remember correctly, he might have one where he's getting punched, and that's it. Super weird. And then War of the Bounty Hunters. This is another auction again. This one's for Han Solo, and you have the Pikes in the middle bottom panel talking about the Crimson Dawn and all that, and how they were once ruled by Darth Maul, and this lady seems to be taken over. Do they trust her? They say no, basically. And then later on, when they're going around organizing the different syndicates, talking to them, they talk to Oba Diah, the High Fortress. They speak to a Pyke there. Again, we don't know who that Pyke is. Just another one. But if he's in the High Fortress, I'd presume he's one of the top dogs, given that they're going and talking to Gutri, a Black Sun there. And that's the variant that has them on it, the Syndicate. I don't know who's supposed to be on the cover, if it's specifically Lon Pike or not, but it does not mentioned for the cover.
Well, he's got it's like a bird. He's got the plumage, so he must be important.
This is just fun. So in Bounty Hunters 27-28, there's a 2-issue arc called Havoc at the Acquisition Disco. And there's this another Pyke boss, basically, just chilling, eating and drinking while at a disco. And the team gets hired to protect him. Secretly, one of them's trying to kill the guy. He does kill him. But the next panel is pretty funny. Where he's like, it's
maskless. I thought he was.
Yeah, he's like, this is the filth you sent to guard me, and boss being like, a pleasure to meet you. And immediately, presumably, the guy just gets killed. He gets beat up and attacked and just, murdered. And then, this is the Hidden Empire. And the holograms there in between Gutri and so whoever that is behind him is the Pyke leader. We don't know his name. Does not talk. Not sure who it is. And that's the last appearance in comics, toy-wise, though.
Off topic a little bit. I thought they were going to do a lot more with Okira here. I don't know. Maybe
I think someone was brought up like in one of the press junkets for Secret Invasion, and someone asked something of her, and she did a really bad job trying to like sidestep the conversation or hide it. She did a really bad job trying to keep composure. So, who knows? We'll see.
There you go.
Figures and toys.
I own none of these, and I'm probably going to be a little bit irritated because I actually think they're really cool designed. I like their design, but I know I don't own these.
So this is actually interesting, the toys. Do you know why? On the left is the first Pyke toy, Quay Tulsite from the Solo. And on the right, that hasn't come out yet. That is a Pyke soldier, basically, from Black Series for Book of Boba Fett. And he's not released yet. Just
pretty sure you can pre-order him, or he might be available.
I think it might be past the pre-order point, but at the same time, I don't think it's gonna sell out. So if you want it, you could just wait till it releases.
Might be the long game on that one. Might be the long run. Keep with the naming team. I see.
Yeah.
Might be long play on that one. Might wait until.
This is actually funny.
So trying to pull me in. Their little minifigures are actually pretty funny sometimes.
I know. So the Solo line of Lego, there wasn't a lot of sets, and it's funny. There isn't a Kessel set, which you think there would have been. They basically have it technically part of this. So the Millennium Falcon. They did for the Kessel run has Quay Tulsite, and actually it's a pretty cool figure. Like I like how the headpiece is with it and the mudded up feet.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah,
it's too bad they don't actually. I know it's Lego, right? So that's the point. It's supposed to be painted on there, but it would have been cool if they gave him one of his little, I don't know, those keys or what those things he was always carrying around. That'd be cool if you could put that in his hands.
Yeah, and that would be all of the Pyke Syndicate.
All right. Well, that is the Pyke Syndicate. Awesome. I actually really enjoy the Pyke Syndicate. There's not a lot there. There will always be more, I'm sure. When they need a bad guy, they can turn to your local drug dealer, known as the Pyke Syndicate.
Your local fish. Don't be swimming with the fishes, though.